Today we're going to begin a short series on DevStride's planning functionality. DevStride allows you to plan short-term work cycles, team capacity, and long-term roadmaps. Today we're going to focus on the short-term work cycles. Now, a cycle is just a time box for work. Agile teams tend to work in short iterations. In Scrum, this is called a sprint. Some teams will use the word iteration. Other teams will work in quarters or months or weeks. And we use the word cycles because it's very generic, and there is a organizational level setting that can be overridden at the program level that lets you label this word any way you want. As you can see, for the purposes of this demo, I'm using the word sprint because I frequently worked in Scrum teams where we're working in sprints, which tend to be 2-week cycles. The first thing I do when I come to this screen is I select my program. Programs are completely configurable at the organizational level so that you can build programs that make sense for your organization. I've chosen here an example where I'm going to pick backend engineering, and once you've selected a program that does two things, underneath here, it loads the browser for all of the work items, those folders that we've discussed in another video, where you can see all the folders that contain all of the work in this particular program. And you'll notice the default view is one that only shows work that is unplanned, meaning work that is in a folder but has never been assigned to a sprint. And we indicate work that's unplanned with a hollow icon. And you'll see here that I can drill into this. There are 3 folders in here that have unplanned work items. I drill all the way down and note here are my 2 work items. US3 and US4 have never been assigned to a sprint before. However, as I'm browsing through everything, I might also want to see all the work around it for context. So you can check this little toggle button. And by enabling this toggle, you can now see all the work items and ones that have been assigned to sprints. If everything in a folder has been assigned to a sprint and it's already scheduled for work, it is represented with a solid icon. And so I can also view my folder context with surrounding items or only with my unplanned items, which is a really handy way to quickly get to what you need. On the right here, I get my cycles. And by default, we show you at least 3 different cycles. The current one is the default on the left. Then we have the next cycle because you're normally planning the next sprint or the next quarter. And so we put that one in the middle, but frequently teams are working ahead. So we go on ahead and show you the next one. Or if, for example, you're dragging things into your next sprint and you overload it, you might want to quickly be able to drag things into the next sprint. If your screen is wider, we will show you 4 tabs. If it's wide enough, we'll show you 5. And so these are dynamic and resized to the amount of screen real estate available on your monitor. By clicking this left and right arrow up at the top, I can toggle through, and I could, for example, click left here to see sprint 16, 17, and 18 on my screen. I could click right to see sprint 18, 19, and 20. If I'm ready to create a new sprint, I click on Add Cycle, and I can give it a name. In this case, it would be sprint 20. I give it a start date. I give it an end date, give it a quick description, create the sprint, and now sprint 20 would be in my list, and I could click the right arrow to scroll over to that and start planning in sprint 20. By default, when you create a new sprint, all of this list is blank. There is no work in a sprint by default. And so your primary workflow is to come over here in your browser, look for unplanned items, click on those and drag them to the right into the sprint, and that loads them into the sprint, and now they're assigned for work. The columns that we're showing by default are your work item, and that has a number in it, which is a link that opens up that work item in our item drawer. Then the description, the name of the work item. We show you the first 2 labels on the item, and if there's more, there's a little icon here that says plus however many more labels are applied, and you can hover over that to see that in a tooltip that pops up. We show you the estimate in hours for that work item, so you have some idea how large the work is, so you know how many things to reasonably put into a sprint. We show you the assignee, and we show you the priority. And in a future video, I'll show a quick add mode so that if you drag an item into here and some of these elements are blank, you'd be able to select these directly from this screen without having to actually open this drawer up. We've added a small grabber to each work item that allows you to reorder items within your sprint. And then finally, you're able to click right here on these filters. And by clicking a filter, these are very much like the filters in the Analyze window, where I can say, oh, only show me the bugs, the high caution items, and the approved items. I click on Apply Filter. That filter would apply, and this list would be reduced down to only the items that match that filter. And so we have those filters set up for labels, we have those filters set up for assignee, and we have those filters set up for priority. As you're dragging things into these sprints, we are also updating down below here in this tab, both the capacity available in your team, which I'll explain that in a future video, how we go through and assign capacity. Then we're showing you the total amount of work that's estimated so you can compare the estimate against your capacity, and then the total number of work items that have been added to the sprint so you have some idea whether or not the total is reasonable. If you realize in the middle of doing this that there's something wrong, your sprint date is incorrect, or the sprint has been, mislabeled for some reason, you can click this pencil icon and you can come in here and you can edit the details on the sprint right in line. So I think this tool really quickly and easily allows any Scrum Master or product leader to come in and very quickly see all of the work that has been added to our overall folder structure that needs to be assigned somewhere, view a few sprints at a time, and rapidly drag work into the sprint to assign it for adoption by the team. We'd love to hear feedback from all of you on this screen, and thanks for taking the time to check it out.